coaching exposes your insecurities. 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities. Hey, Jamie. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, Coach April. So glad that you guys are joining me. Do me a favor and tag someone in the group. If you are catching this on in our 6-figure group, make sure you tag someone to join the training on today. Let's get others into the space so that we can jump into today's training. I'm excited about it. This topic really came up during the Good Morning Kingdom Coaches show over on Clubhouse, right? So, every morning I'm on Clubhouse at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Heart of Coaching Club, where I am one of the hosts of the Good Morning Kingdom Coaches show. And so today we were talking, and a guest came up on the stage, and she was talking about how, coaching and entrepreneurship displayed, or it brought up a lot of unhandled issues for her. And so she struggled with that, and it kind of caused her to go back into her cocoon. It kind of caused her to go back into her shell and say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I wanted to talk about that because you guys know my story that I share with you all the time of how I struggled with sales, how I struggled with hiring my first coach, how I struggled with marketing myself, all because of these unresolved issues. And so today I want to talk about 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities and how to break free from this stronghold so that you can truly become who God has called you to become in the coaching space. Because here's the thing: if we continue to allow our insecurities to keep us stuck or keep us bound, we'll never show up and be the solution to the problem of the people that we're called to serve, right? We'll never be the solution to the problem of the people that we're called to serve. So for those of you, if this is your first time rocking out with me, hello. I am Latoya Early. I am also the founder of Chase Great University. We are a niche coaching certification company for Christian women. We help you start, grow, and monetize your coaching business in your niche without compromising your kingdom assignment. Here at Chase Great University, we focus on demonstrating the kingdom coaching standard, how to walk in the fullness of your kingdom assignment while building a kingdom business using kingdom strategy, right? Using kingdom strategy. And so we're going to talk about these insecurities on today. And I want to help you identify if any of these insecurities are showing up in your life, right? If you're hesitant to take your business to the next level. And that could be, listen, know that taking your business to the next level is really based on where you are. So if you're still in idea mode and you make the decision to start showing up on social media as a coach, that's next level. If you start showing up and marketing and messaging your business, going live, going into Clubhouse rooms, going on LinkedIn, that's all considered next level. And so I want you to be aware of that term next level and not think that it's bigger than where you currently are. What is considered next level for you? Right? Sometimes we'll think next level means I'm going from 0 to 100,000. Right? That may not be next level for you. So I want you to acknowledge where you are, and I want you to decide what is next level for you. What does that look like? Right? Is next level for you going live? Is next level for you making the offer? Is next level for you actually hiring a coach? Is going next level for you actually enrolling into a program? What does that look like for you? So listen, while you guys are coming into the room, make sure you are saying hello in the comments so that I know that you are there. We're going to dive into the 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities and how can you break free from those strongholds so that you can truly show up and become the exact thing that God has called you to become. So I hope you're ready for it. Cool? So let's jump in. This was all, again, this topic sparked from a particular discussion that we had on the Good Morning Kingdom Coaches show this morning. And it really raised awareness for me. And it's something that I've talked about with you many of times. So I've been in the coaching space since 2012. That's when I launched my business. I've been full time since 2014. And I remember sitting at my desk and I was struggling. And I'm like, Lord, why am I having a hard time with sales? A lot of time we don't want to position ourselves in our business and make the offer to our client because we struggle with the idea of sales. You're like, oh, I don't want to be that sleazy sales guy, the person who is going door to door providing unsolicited information. I don't want to be the person who just jumps in someone's inbox and just starts selling, right? You don't even know me. You don't even know what I need. And you just jump straight into my inbox and start trying to offer me something. I don't want to be the mall kiosk guy that walks up to you and try to flat iron your hair with this random flat iron talking about how well it works. I don't want to be that person. Well, here's what I want to share with you. You don't have to be that person, right? You can still stay saved and sell at the same time, right? But we're going to talk about some insecurities that we have in business that stops us from going to the next level. I see that we have Coach Jamie here on the training today, and she has something to add. She says, I'm running my very first group coaching program, and just today I added one-on-one coaching. My next level is getting out there and letting people know through Clubhouse rooms and Instagram lives. That is Jamie's next level. Her next level is now increasing her marketing, right? It's increasing her marketing. What are some ways that Jamie is going to increase her marketing? Through Clubhouse rooms, through Instagram lives. How are you going to increase your marketing? What is considered your next level? Thank you so much, Jamie, for sharing that with us. If anyone else wants to share their next level, as we're talking about these 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities, please drop them in the comments. Let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about it. And as we're talking about this really may highlight some barriers or some obstacles in your next level, right? In your next level. So let's talk about it. Number 1, the very first thing that shows up in your insecurities when you are starting and growing your coaching business is fear, right? This is one of the insecurities that is exposed as you are starting and growing your coaching business. Now, why am I talking about fear, and why is that number 1? When we think about what's required of you to grow your coaching business, how many of you allow so many factors come in and change your perspective of what you're supposed to be doing as a coach? Right? Let's talk about it. Let's think through this. When it's time for you to go live, what stops you? When it's time for you to launch the offer, what stops you? When it's time for you to present yourself as a coach, what stops you? When it's time for you to make an investment in a coaching program, to hire a coach, to join a community, what stops you? Now, here's the thing. In many cases, procrastination comes up, right? You just procrastinate. You're always putting it to the end of the list. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. I'll do it when this happens. How many of us put that type of contingency on what we're going to do next? Well, I'll do this when this happens, right? These are all rooted in fear. You're afraid of the responsibility. You're afraid of someone rejecting you. You're afraid of people not understanding you, right? These are all things that I want you to consider. These are all things that I want you to think about as we do what? As we sit down and we work through your coaching insecurities. This is important to think through because here's the thing. Your insecurities could be what's stopping you from truly growing the business that God has shown you. Your insecurities could be what's stopping you from showing up as the expert in solving a specific problem. But if you're not willing to acknowledge the insecurity, then how will you ever push past it? Right? How will you ever push past it if you're not willing to show up and challenge the insecurity? So the first insecurity we talked about was fear, right? Fear of showing up, fear of going live, fear of what else could you possibly be allowing fear to stop you from doing? I'm bringing up you guys on my, for those of you who have not um you have not allowed Facebook to share who you are. I'm pulling you up so that I can know who's responding. And I see this is Jill. Hey, Jill, thank you so much for joining us on today. Jamie said fear was the biggest reason that I waited years before starting my first coaching program. What were you afraid of, Jamie? Let's talk about it. We're talking about the 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities, right? And I want you to take a moment and think through what insecurities are stopping me from showing up as a coach. Am I afraid? Right? We talked about how with myself, how I struggle with sales because my insecurity of rejection, of being rejected, it showed up in my business. And I didn't know that the childhood trauma that I experienced with my father and with my family members and with certain childhood peers, that those things would then 20 years later show up in my business. Right? Let's be honest. As kingdom coaches, let's start there. As kingdom coaches, we have a responsibility to do what? Solve a specific problem so that it leads our client to Christ. Right? That is our sole responsibility. Well, as you're doing the work to make sure you're showing up as the expert, is going to require you to do some internal work. And if you're going to be the coach that God has called you to become, then guess what? You're going to have to face a lot of uncomfortable insecurities so that you can be sure to show up stronger, established, and confirmed by God. The Bible talks about the struggle and how after the struggle, God shall restore you. Well, he can't restore you unless you go through the process. Well, what does that process include? It includes you doing what? Facing your insecurities, right? Facing your insecurities. So let's go ahead. Jamie says, someone asked me the other day how I expect to make money as a teen life coach. Normally that would have set me back. But this time my answer was the same way anyone else makes money as a life coach, right? Now, this could have been a insecurity that showed its face in Jamie's approach, right? But doing what? Being able to identify this insecurity now pushed her further ahead. I'm no longer going to allow the opinions of other people keep me bound. Well, why is that an insecurity? Well, when I was a child, people would tell me all the time that, I talk too much or I was bossy. I laugh all the time. In high school, I was the student who sat in the front of the class and I asked questions, right? All the time. And to this day, they use it as a joke and say whenever we wanted to leave class early, we couldn't because LaToya always had a question. I did, right? I did always have a question. And so as a child, that may have, that could have been a traumatic experience for me, which trickled into my adulthood. That was an insecurity that was hidden or laid doormat. And then when it was time for me to show up in my business and ask questions in my coaching space, could I have hidden because of that insecurity? Right? I want you to think these things through. Jamie shared, I was afraid of both failure and success. I was afraid that if I messed up, then I would mess up the lives of teen girls. I was also afraid of success, that I wouldn't be able to sustain it. I finally kicked that to the curb and started claiming that Philippians 4:19, God is my source, not me. I can definitely break this down in so many different ways. Thank you so much for sharing this, Jamie, because this is a huge issue in the coaching space. I remember talking to God and saying, Lord, why are the coaches struggling with the fear of success? His response to me is that in success comes responsibility. And many times coaches are afraid of the responsibilities that success brings. And will they be able to sustain that level of success? Or will it come off as fraud or as imposter syndrome? Right? So if I reach this level of success, am I able to sustain it? Or if I begin to decline, will it be perceived as fraud? Right? What about the fear of failure? Messing up the lives of your client. Is this something that you struggle with? That you're going to mess up and that you may mislead or misdirect your client? But as kingdom coaches, are we relying on us or are we relying on the Holy Spirit that lives within us? Right? These are the things that I want you to take a moment and think through. Am I allowing my insecurities to keep me stuck? Am I allowing my insecurities to keep me in a space where I'm unable to grow and take my business to the next level? Let's talk about the second insecurity. You ready for it? Because this one is a big deal. Comparison. Comparison. We're talking about 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities. If you are a coach and you are on social media and you find yourself looking at other coaches, now here's the thing: you may have never been the type of woman to compare yourself to another woman. You may have never, even allowed those type of thoughts to even enter into your thinking. However, when it's time, soon as you said you want to coach, you start seeing all these coaches pop up. Oh my gosh, you want to be a forgiveness coach? You start seeing forgiveness coaches pop up. Oh my gosh, you want to be a life coach? You saw all of these other life coaches pop up. You want to be a mindset coach? You saw all of these other mindset coaches pop up. And then you found yourself comparing who God has called you to the people that you see. And so now this insecurity begins to rise up and it causes you to slow down in your process, and then you become stuck. I want you to think about it because it happens to us across the board. The insecurities begin to show up when that comparison begins to show its face. From childhood, can you recall ever being a child comparing yourself to other kids? Maybe you're a sister comparing yourself to other siblings. Maybe you're a cousin comparing yourself to other cousins. And you thought that these things, you've overcome these things because of your age or because of time, or maybe you've forgiven, or maybe because you've just matured. But then once you got into business, that insecurity began to resurface. When I was in grade school, I struggled with comparison a lot because my parents weren't in the financial position to buy me designer clothes, right? So I grew up, of course, in a very urban area. And so the latest name brand clothes were the thing when I was in middle school. So if you weren't wearing Tommy Hilfiger or Polo or Nike or whatever the case was, then you were looked upon differently. So in middle school, I found myself comparing myself to the other girls because they were wearing the designer clothes and I wasn't. Why is it that they get to wear the designer clothes and I can't? Right? What did this comparison do? This comparison led me to selecting a high school. I selected the high school that I went to so that I could wear uniform, because I knew that it would be challenging for me to keep up with the kids that were around me. And so to avoid that emotion, instead of handling the emotion, I just went to a school that we wore uniform, right? So now let's fast forward into adulthood. Now, by this time, I'm matured, I'm older, I'm to the place where it's like, number one, I could buy, if I choose it, I could buy it. So I never even revisited that struggle with comparison until I got into coaching. And then I saw other coaches generating multiple 6 figures. Then I saw other coaches being asked to speak on stages. Then I saw other coaches being invited to the I don't know, the cool club, right? And so then what? That insecurity started to rise, right? And so if I hadn't have taken the time to do my due diligence and separate myself from that insecurity, or to be healed from that insecurity, then every time I saw another coach who I assumed to be further than me, then it would have kept me stuck or kept me bound. Is this insecurity stopping you from growing your coaching business? Right? Is it stopping you? We know that God is not the spirit of fear. He does not give us the spirit of fear. We know that we have nothing to be afraid of when we're grounding our coaching and our strategies and our business in the word of God. The Bible says, don't look unto others. Keep your eyes focused on me so that I can direct you, so that I can keep you focused, so that I can keep you moving forward. Right? And so we're talking about, what does this look like? I'm sorry, y'all. It's summer. I got boys in the background. Let me know if y'all can hear them in the background. I just want to know if you can hear them. So we're talking about the 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities. And what does that look like? Right? Number 1, we've talked about fear. Number 2, we've talked about comparison. And here's the last insecurity I want to help you identify. If this is showing up in your coaching business, is lack of value for self. You don't value what you have and the problem you're able to solve as a coach. You don't value it, right? You struggle with seeing how God sees you. You struggle with believing that the things that God has allowed you to go through wasn't for you, but for the people that you were called to serve. You struggle with believing that the solutions that God has, the strategy that He's given you, you struggle with believing that this strategy is valuable enough to provide it or offer it to your client at a 4-figure investment. You struggle with that. You struggle with the level of transformation your strategy can bring to the life of your client. Here's what I want you to think about. Thank you, Jamie. Here's what I want you to think about. When I think about what Chase Gray University offers, I don't just think about the client that's enrolling into Chase Gray. I think about the people who are connected to the client that's enrolling into Chase Gray. So I think about the client and I think about their clients. I think about the client and I think about their marriage. I think about the client and I think about their children. I think about their relationships. I think about their relationship with Christ. And I say, what can Chase Gray do to offer a strategy that's not only going to change their life, but is going to change the lives of the people that's connected to them? So when you think about the value you offer to your client, I'll use Jamie for an example because Jamie been rocking out with me in the comments. As Jamie is serving these teenage girls, Jamie isn't just thinking about the teenage girl's life, but the people that teenage girl is connected to. Jamie is changing the life of that young girl's womb, of the babies that she hasn't had yet. Can you see the fire in that? That she's not just changing the life of the girl, but to her homegirls or her girlfriends who don't know anything about God. Jamie's changing the life of the girl when she goes to a party and they're trying to get her to do things out of peer pressure, and that girl says no because I was fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and she has the guts to say no, and guess what it does? Now it's another girl who may not even ever be seen or may not ever be heard, saw that girl said no, and I'm going to say no too. You just never know who your people are connected to. When Jamie coaches these teenage girls, she's coaching these teenage girls and the children that they're going to have and their children's children. I'm talking about generational legacy, generational curses are being broken. This is why I want you to think about your value. And don't let the insecurity, because here's what happens. You start coaching, or you say, you know what, I've been called to coach. I'm ready to go after coaching. Let's make this happen, right? And so you start listening to a family member or a friend or a coworker who understands nothing about what you've been called to do, and they're trying to talk you out of it. They're trying to help you change your perspective because they don't understand it. And so now you start to see less and less in the value in what you're able to offer. And now the insecurities of people pleasing, the insecurities of other people's opinions, the insecurities of what people are going to say and think about you, they begin to surface. And now you're seeing less and less in the value that you're able to bring your client. So the question of the hour, or what we're talking about for the hour, is 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities. And how do I break free from those strongholds? How do I break free from those things so that I can become what God has called me to become? Number 1, when we talk about eliminating fear, I need you to recognize what you're afraid of, right? How do I eliminate fear from keeping me stuck? Identify what you're afraid of. If you're afraid of going live, why? If you're afraid of investing in a coach, why? Once you sit down and you identify the root to this fear, now we know what we are working against. So I'm afraid of going live, Latoya, because I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong things. Well, whoever told you that what came out of your mouth was wrong? And if you're yielding to the Holy Spirit, then what you say is what they need to hear. And understand that the more you do something, the better you'll get. You're saying, Latoya, I'm afraid to invest in a coach because, number 1, I don't know how I'm going to be able to pay for this. I don't know how I'm going to be able to make this investment. So now my question is, are you relying more on you as the source, or you rely more on God as the source? Because I believe that the moment that you say, yes, Lord, I'm going to be obedient and do the work, then guess what? He's going to bring you the strategy so that you can be fruitful and multiply. So the question is, are you relying more on self, which is provoking the fear, or are you going to have faith and trust God? Jamie said, I was afraid of going live on Instagram because I knew that's where my audience was. How am I going to make a difference? I don't get in front of my audience. If I don't get in front of my audience, how are you going to make a difference? You don't have to go on here and give this whole dissertation of who you are and what you do and how you're going to change their life. Find one topic, one behavior, press live and talk about it. Now, I know that that's a little bit, it sounds a lot easier than what you may really experience. But if you don't overcome the fear, how will you ever stand out? Understand that even the small challenges, there's a strategy in it, right? So we've talked about fear. We've talked about comparison. We've talked about your value. These are 3 ways coaching exposes your insecurities. How do you break free from those insecurities? How do you break free from them so that you can become what God has called you to become? Not only do you need to sit down and do the work and peel back the layers and do some examining and do some journaling and go into prayer and begin to seek out scripture, but I encourage you to connect with a coach and a community that's going to help you do this. Who's in your life going to help you remove the fear? Or do you think that you can do this all on your own? Right? Because that's another thing that we do, and that falls into the spirit of pride when we think, hey, I can do this on my own. I'll figure this out. But know this, the longer it takes you to figure out, the further away you get to your client. And how many people are waiting on you to show up? How many people are waiting on you to bring the solution that they have to their problem? How many people are waiting to hear your voice, to hear your story, to hear your strategy, to hear your solution? And this is going to sound real bad, but I'm going to say it. But the longer you wait, the more selfish you are. Because what you're saying is that my insecurities and my issues are more important than the people's issues that I'm called to serve. My fear is more important than the fear that I'm called to help my client break free from. My issue with comparing is more important than the people that I'm called to that are more important than the people that I'm called to serve. I'm more important than them. That's what you're saying. Every time you allow your insecurities to keep you stuck. But will they show up? Absolutely. Rejection showed up for me. Pride it still shows up. And so I'm still daily making sure that I'm not operating out of a spirit of pride. Right? What else shows up in your life? What's keeping you from doing what God has called you to do in your coaching business? So listen, this has been a fantastic Maximize Your Monday Masterclass. I hope that you were able to identify some insecurities. Maybe you need to sit down and identify some insecurities within yourself, because know that those insecurities is what's keeping you stuck in your business, right? It's what's keeping you stuck in your business. Jamie says, I'm realizing that fear is rooted in selfishness and pride. We are also criticizing God's ability to take care of us. That's all I'm saying. So will you make the decision, or will you allow God to help you and guide you to make the better decision? My husband taught a training during the six-figure shift conference. And he said, will you choose God, or will you choose to be God? So if I'm going to choose God, then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to address these insecurities. But if I choose to be God, then I'm going to keep shoving these insecurities under a rug, thinking that I'll get over them and I'll be able to get to the next level that God has called me to get to. Remember, we were identifying that next level. What is your next level? And are you willing to remove the insecurities so that you can get to that next level? Listen, I invite you to Chase Gray University's pre-certification intro to niche coaching program. If you are a startup coach where you are just getting started and you're looking for a community, you're looking for clarity in your messaging, what type of coach you are, your messaging, and how do you position yourself as the expert. You're trying to figure out, the beginning steps to being a coach and what that looks like, and how to really cultivate your assignment as a coach without compromising your kingdom values. Then I invite you to our pre-certification program, our intro to niche coaching. The link is in the caption. Be sure to check it out. Join us just in time for our call. We have our first and third Monday call. Tonight is our third Monday call of the month, and I invite you to that call. Go ahead, click the link, join the community, and meet us on that coaching call tonight so that we can not only help you get clarity in your messaging, but we can work through some of these insecurities, because the insecurities will continue to keep you stuck if you're not willing to do the work to not only remove the insecurities, but break free from the stronghold so that you can truly show up and serve your client. Don't forget to click the link. If you have any questions for me, do not hesitate to drop them in the comments. Do not hesitate to send me an inbox. I look forward to working with you soon, and have a fantastic Monday, and be blessed.